This Wingman class is going to be called Increase Your Sales by Understanding Your Customer, because Amazon doesn't give us a ton of data to go off of. We feel like people don't know how to look at their sales data and move forward. This is a picture of me and Steven. I had to put the date and where we were, because every time we go to like say that information, we're always like,
no, you can tell the truth. It's me. I'm always like, when did we do this? Where were we at? What was happening? This year has been a blur. Just we've done a lot of things and had a lot of opportunities. And every time I see a picture, I try to reference something. I'm like, I go foggy. So I appreciate it. I know you don't want to just throw me under the bus, so I appreciate that also. But most of the time, whenever we see these slides, or I think the picture, I'm trying to recall information. This was when we were talking about showing people how to, I think like this, take the information that you have and use it to the maximum potential. There's a lot of, I think, time being spent incorrectly, and that's what we like to do, is help people kind of systemize, understand, and build a process to speed everything up. But in case you're new here, my name is Steven. I'm the one on the left. I'm the one holding the mic with the real bad beard. I apologize. My wife never lets me grow it out, and I was on the road a lot, and I was letting it go wild. Analytics and the data is stuff that I've always enjoyed, and I feel like that's where I've had the most success, is just being able to understand the Amazon platform and coming from a informational position to kind of understand keywords. So that's kind of what I bring to this community.
So I'm Nate, the one actually holding the camera in this picture, if you can tell. And I am Steven's little brother by 10 years.
Doesn't look like it in the picture.
Doesn't look like it at all, ever, whether it's in the picture or not. And my background is in graphic design. So basically the whole time Steven's been selling online, I've been doing graphic design. I think I started when I was like 12, just doing little projects for our church and things like that. And that's developed into multiple professional jobs, and now what I'm doing, which is print on demand full time, which is fantastic. We've been selling on merch for 3 going on 4 years, something like that. And it's just been a lot of ups and downs, a lot of failures, and that's how we came to teaching. I guess I'll go tell the full story of all that here in just 1 second, because I think it's an interesting story. But that is me on the right. And just seeing this picture, like Steven said, like just constantly calling back memories. Like if I saw this picture at the end of last year, I would have like really laughed myself into tears, because I'd be like, there's no way me and Steve are going to be standing up in front of people like talking about this merch thing that we're like stumbling through. But all the doors that have opened up this year, I mean, partially thanks to people in this group just giving us confidence, good feedback constantly to be sharing what we're going through. But it is really cool to see how far we've come this year as far as just like the teaching aspect. Our business has continued to grow, and we're happy about that. But the teaching aspect of this whole thing is pretty amazing. So thank you guys for watching our content, giving us good feedback. But it is pretty cool to see this picture of us just both talking at an event we probably would have been at anyways.
Yeah, not possibly. In front.
Yeah, but definitely not in front of people. So that's pretty cool. All right, so a little story time about Wingman. I told this story the other night, and people, I think, got a kick out of it, and were like, we should just share that in the class that we're doing. And so what Wingman Media originally started off as was, I said I've been doing graphic design for about, I guess, 12 years now. I'm old now.
Ow.
I can't say I'm old without Steven feeling really old, because he's 10 years older than me. But Wingman Media started out as just my kind of brainchild. I called it a business, but it actually didn't make any money underneath the Wingman Media, at least the way I wanted it to. I was a freelance graphic designer, and I got really good at working with clients and trying to figure out what the client had in their head and what I was going to be able to deliver them. And so doing that a few times, I was like, okay, I could do this graphic design thing freelance. I was building up a little bit of confidence in it. But the part that I actually didn't like was the graphic design part. It was just like, because I didn't have the confidence there. What I found I was building my confidence in was just working with the client and figuring out what the client wanted. So my idea was to get my friends, who are also graphic designers, and I felt at the time much better than me, to get them to do the work that I was finding clients for, because I could actually find more clients than I could possibly do the work for. And I was like, oh, this would be perfect. I'll find the work. I'll talk to the clients. Artists usually don't like talking to clients, especially people who want to be difficult and very specific about things, but they have a hard time describing them. I'm staring at Steven right now. But So I got really good at that. I thought I could give it to my friends to actually complete the jobs, and it would be an awesome business. And so I called it WingMan Media. But I found out that my friends that I thought I could count on were not as
reliable,
not as enthusiastic about this idea as I was. So I ended up with a bunch of work to do myself. And so that quickly made me start to build up my confidence in graphic design. I was like, okay, I've promised all these people that I could do these things, and now I just have to go and do them all. So that was kind of what WingMan Media was built out of. And then I guess a year ago, almost now, I think we started in February last year, Ryan and Jenny started pushing us into teaching. And when we needed a name for what we were going to teach under, I just took out the media part of WingMan Media and turned it to merch. So it's this very simple logo change. I just changed out 4 letters, and now this is an actual company we're being successful with. So together, me and Steven are actually WingMan Merch. I started merch a little bit before him, but he's been a huge part of the success of what we're doing, especially the teaching part of this, and all the data that he can talk about, I think is much more interesting than the art side, but there is definitely value for both of them. So, but that is the story behind how we came about, I guess how that name really came about. It's been a lot of ups and downs, and like I said, failures, and us just learning. So that's where we're at now. But we landed on Merch by Amazon, and we think that while there are a ton of really good print-on-demand businesses and places that you can get stuff done out there, merch is probably the best for actually learning the print-on-demand business. It's very true when it comes to looking at the audience that Amazon has. I don't think it's any secret that Amazon is the biggest online retailer. So it's awesome that we get to list our things and list those things for free. So free, being able to list products and a huge audience, that usually equals a great place to at least learn some really valuable lessons. And with that, we've been able to get sales, and we've been able to look at those sales, and those have been very important.
Yeah, and the merch platform is a very simplified platform. If you've sold on Amazon before, you know you kind of have to go through Seller Central. If you try to make listings through Seller Central, there's a lot of steps. Sometimes it's not very clear depending on what category it's in. That's why we think merch is the greatest way to kind of ease people into that. It gets you to understand the process. You have to know what the customers want and then be able to offer the customers something. And with the merch platform, it's just a very streamlined way to do that.
So why looking at those sales I was just talking about is so important on merch, and well, specifically merch, is because there's limited info on merch. Now, if you're selling on Amazon through Seller Central, I think you get a lot more analytics. I know that you get a lot more analytics. But for merch, when you go to look at, okay, who bought my shirt? It's just like, nope, this is the shirt they bought, and that's all the information you get. So actually looking at your sales, when you have sales, that is a lot of information that I think people are just glossing over and not seeing, okay, actually having just one shirt sell, you should be able to pull a lot of information out, and hopefully we'll show you that tonight. And that will be, like helpful moving forward. We call that helpful process of looking at your sales, pulling the information out of it, is doubling down.
And now this is the part where you start asking yourself, what is doubling down?
Yeah, so doubling down is looking at what's working, extracting that information, and then creating more listings from that. So again, by even seeing one sale, we can go into it, see what keywords, what art we used, extract that information, and then create similar listings to that listing to be able to spread a wider net for, being able to capture more people. And we have a visual aid that I think is going to break that down clearer than I can explain it. But before we get there, we want to talk about the difference between doubling down and discovery research. We've talked about discovery research a lot here. And if you don't know what discovery research is, this is a graphic we're trying to use everywhere. So everybody starts to know our 5-step test for how to do discovery research inside of Merch by Amazon.
Yeah, this year was probably a lot of just letting people know how to do discovery research. And I don't think we kind of categorized it as such, but now moving into next year and kind of having a full year of better understanding how to teach people, now separating out the different steps in what we're doing. So this is the discovery research. This process probably took us at least 8 months of 12-hour days, really tracking what's going on. We're going to show you a CSV here in a second, and I'm going to show you my nightmare. But the rules are autofill. I was going to read them up. That's fine.
Oh, okay. We can just go into it. We broke these down. It's a little bit easier to explain them when they're just like actually written out rather than the actual visual. But
Yeah, number one, that it autofills. This represents customers. What they're typing in, this kind of shows us that the customers are typing that in. They're going to that results page. As soon as we go to the results page, the next thing we're looking at is less than 2,000 results. The fewer number on that results page means less competition. We want to be the big fish in a small pond so that we can start dominating that sub niche. And then we want to see the top 10 listings are all t-shirts. We want to go against similar products. It's very difficult because shirts sell a lot slower than a lot of other products on Amazon. You don't really want to be competing against non-t-shirts because it's a quick way for your shirt to get, you'll drop off the top 10 very quickly and then you get pushed back and not even be on the first page. And then we want to see 8 out of the top 10 have BSR. This just represents sales. We want to make sure if we're going to spend the time to do art and keyword research that we're going to be able to put our shirts up where people are actually purchasing. And then the last rule is 2 out of the top 10 are less than 1 million BSR. And this just kind of shows us monthly sales and volume of sales. Again, we don't want to spend all that upfront time putting a shirt somewhere where it might only sell once or once every 6 months. We want to make sure, hey, if we're going to spend the time to do this, let's at least give ourselves the best opportunity where we can sell shirts multiple times in 1 month.
Yeah, and these, if you followed us this last year, you've known that these rules have been like compounded over quite a lot of research and us trying to like systemize this as much as possible. So it might just seem like we kind of threw together like a cutesy list of, you know, things you should try to follow. But like this is a lot of testing, a lot of trial and error, us boiling down like, okay, how are we going to be able to recreate the success that we're having over and over and over again? And it's these 5 rules that have let us do that. There's a lot of other things that we're doing to help with our success, and that's another part of what we're going to be sharing tonight. But these 5 rules are super important. So even if all you got out of tonight was the 5-step test that we've talked about a lot, it's still a very valuable thing to be able to use to find where you should be putting your t-shirts. But back to why doubling down is different than discovery research, or why, you know, the differences between them. Discovery research is showing us where the customers are, so finding where those customers are, and that's those 5-step rules we just went over. And doubling down, what we're going to be talking about more tonight, is catering to those customers. So once we find a sale, how can we make sure that we're giving those customers other things to purchase from us, or other customers like them, things that they want to purchase.
So here's our visual aid. So we teach the landing zones. Nathaniel talks about art. We don't talk too much about colors behind the art, but Nathaniel's always trying to make it just what looks best, and then pricing. Normally we price everything at $19.99. Sometimes when we're going after a new niche and a lot of other shirts at a lower cost, we'll price it very similar to that. But if you do discovery research, this is kind of what you end up with. You end up with a landing zone. You end up with a piece of art. You get to pick up to 5 colors, and then you have to pick one price. With this out there, you don't really know if customers are actually going to purchase it or not. So this is just the discovery, and you've gotten to this point. You've made a listing off of that discovery research. Running those 5-step tests, this is what you came up with. Now you have a listing out there. So once somebody purchases this, then you can kind of see, okay, this person came to Amazon. You don't know exactly what they typed in, but they found your listing using your title. They also liked your piece of art. They liked it in yellow, and they bought it at $60.99. Now, that's not a ton of information, but at least it's enough to start the doubling down process. So from this, we extract a ton of information so that we can make more listings with more pieces of art and more color options. And then we, at this point, will start testing different prices. So from here, if we start getting more sales in this niche, we can start to say, okay, is cat costume for human shirt the best title? Or after a lot of sales, can we look back at this and see what the customer path is? And then we can quickly decide, oh, human costume, really a cat shirt, is really the most popular one for us. They like this style of art, and red seems to really be the color that they're going after, and they're very willing to pay $19.99. This is the information that we really want to know, so that if we do start catering to this customer more, we know art styles that they like, colors, and prices that they're willing to pay. So you might be asking yourself, how do we pull this information? You have a CSV inside merch. It's not great. I want you guys to feel my pain right now when we show you this, but we're going to show you a picture of the CSV. This is what I would be looking at pretty much weekly and going over all of our sales. It's very overwhelming unless you love spreadsheets. I don't know if I'm a spreadsheet lover, but I understand them and I use them quite a bit in my business. From here, you can look at the keywords that you're using. So the title, it's this first one that says name. You can sort them by this. There's a lot of different ways that you can manipulate this data, but this C column is what I'd be looking at. I'd also be looking at the D column, the category. I want to see if most of our shirts are being sold to men or women. It's just more information that I can extract so that if we do start making more listings catering to this niche, we know, oh, should we be catering more towards women? Should we be catering more towards men's? Or is this like a child shirt? Then the next thing we'd be looking at is color. Again, it's hard to try to match all this up, but we had a program that we could filter some of this through and at least to be organizing it a little bit better. It still looked like this though. It's just mad science. Then we want to see the prices that we're mostly selling at, and this gives us a good idea of what we should be pricing moving forward. From our experience, $19.99 is a price that we kind of just set everything at across the board, unless we're really trying to go after a specific niche that the prices are very low, and then we'll start competitively to try to figure out this information, get some sales so that we can better understand the customer. So doing this once a week for 8 months and trying to run multiple businesses, I told Nathaniel I cannot do this anymore. This is the thing that I think is helping us the most, but I don't have time every week to look at this. So now this is going to be your responsibility. And Nathaniel hates Excel sheets, and I don't think you hate data anymore. At the time, he hated data. So I handed this to him. The next day, he found a program.
Yeah. So just to take a quick second, this is what I looked at and immediately felt overwhelmed. Steven was showing me how to organize all this stuff and look at it a little bit better. But I was still like, okay, that's great and all, but I can't, I'm such a visual learner and such a visual person that this is not helpful to me at all. Even going back through here, tallying all the great sales that we had and everything that was going on, it was just way too overwhelming. So like Steven said, after about an hour of trying to fiddle with this to make it do what I wanted, I went out and I found a program that was able to sort all the information and make it look a lot better, and even had this little cutesy logo of a girl who was like, okay, that's something I can relate to. Just cute art, show me my data to look visually pleasing, and that will help me so much. But all of this data that we're going to look at, this is, like Steven said, was super helpful for our business because merch gave us no information besides when we made a sale of the little bit of information that's on the spreadsheet. We had to find the best way to look at that and pull as much information out of it to reuse to move forward in our business. And that's kind of the backbone of doubling down. So I think we made that clear. I just wanted to say it again before we look at this tool, merch reports, on how that looks. So remember this, burn that into your head real quick, and then we're going to do a quick over the shoulder. If you're interested in this tool, this link is also in the description of this video, but it is right here on the page as well if you want to quickly jot that down or write it out. But that will be available in other places as we move forward. You take a look at this merch reports tool. Let me reload it. So setting this up is you're setting it up on your computer, so this data isn't going anywhere. So there's a few tips and tricks you have to know. So if you need to know that, we can make another video specifically on that. But this tool has been super helpful for me since Steven told me that he's no longer looking at my CSV files. I needed this. The first thing you want to do when you come to this tool is open up your CSV file. So this is the one that you download from Merch. It's going to look just like this. You can hit open and then hit show me the data. And that is going to organize all your data. So it no longer looks like a CSV file. It has all these pictures and colors and it looks wonderful. So we can go through each of these fairly quickly, but I think the best way to learn this tool is just to get it for yourself and start going through all of these tabs, and you'll just see how much information it shows you in the simplest form possible. So it's going to tell you, ranked by how many sales you're having, what your titles are.
And the percentages. I think that was the biggest thing that helped me, was just being able to see this. Because when you're looking at a spreadsheet, you kind of gauging, okay, there was 10 here, there was 5 over here. Okay, this is kind of the most popular one. But being able to quickly look at this and gather the information to go, okay, this is being sold the most. This is how I should retarget these customers. And just like Neil said, that there's quite a bit of tabs in here, but this just helps you get that 10,000 foot view to better understand your customers.
So titles and then the royalties. So you can, if you're naming your shirts with a lot of good keywords in here, you'll know, okay, this title really worked out for me, this month. Let me make more shirts with those keywords in there. We're going to show you all that in just a second. If you clicking through here, excuse me, you can see the type of products that you're selling on. So if you are doing pop sockets, those are back now. You'll see, your pop sockets are jumping off. But for us, it's that standard t-shirt. We have a few other shirts listed on other products, but standard t-shirt has just been our winner. That's why that's really all we're focused on right now. The style, this is men's, female, kids. Again, this is more for Steven, more data for him to look at when he's looking at, the types of shirts we should be making. The color, this is super helpful to let you know what shirt you should be listing on, the colors that you should be using. Black is across the board, always across all of the months that we've been selling, been the best seller. So we definitely suggest you listing your shirts on black. The sizing, this doesn't matter too much just because...
yeah, we have no control over this.
Yeah, you don't have much control over that.
But it's just good to know, again, more data is always good information. 10,000-foot view of going, okay, this is kind of who I should be catering to. If it's smaller sizes, it's either children, more than likely. And if it's larger sizes, it's probably men. And then you can kind of start catering, if you're going after that niche, to men or women or children.
Right.
Or teens or youth, I guess I should say.
The month, this will be helpful. If you don't pull your CSVs every month, I pull mine at the other end of every month. And so you just select the range that you want and say, get this CSV. And so mine only pulls this, but actually this program, you can include 2 CSV files, or even, I think it's unlimited actually. So I showed you that there's 2 files in here. So if you were to go and select all of your CSV files, if you wanted to look at all your months at one time, you could just select those, hit open, and then hit show me the data again. And then if we come back down here to where it said month, you'll see that's, both months, November and October, and it has all that data. And it's sorted all of that for you, so you don't have to look at that ugly spreadsheet. It's all just here, which is fantastic. And so there's a lot of different ways to break down the sales that you're looking at. This one I think is pretty nice. It tells you the exact variation of what shirt. You can see that we have 51 sales on this shirt, and it was 16% of what we did. So that's really important to know. This shirt with this title on just a regular t-shirt for females, small, dark heather gray, those are really good stats to know when you're continuing to make listings. And again, just a bunch of really good data. And then you come down here at the bottom and it just has nice bar graphs, nothing that your normal CSV will have. So I'm super thankful for this tool. Excuse me. And so this has been a huge help for me moving forward. And we didn't have this in the slides anywhere, but it's only $14.99, and it's a one-time price that you're paying. So if you go through that link, that is our affiliate link, it will give us a little bit of kickback, but supporting the person who makes this tool is really important. It's not a super popular tool, but she has kept this thing up to date through every patch and weird change that Amazon has made. And it's been such a huge, part of what we're doing, a great tool for us to use.
Yeah, and it's such a low cost.
It is just, like I said, most of the tools like this are a monthly charge, but this is just one time $14.99, and you guys can go through the link and get this if you're interested, but it's a huge help for being able to look at your sales data. Now I'm going to let Steven talk about his favorite thing in the world, keywords.
Yeah, now that we've kind of showed you the 10,000-foot view, just to kind of better understand your customer, this is how you can actually start using this information to find other places to put shirts. So if this is your shirt and it's selling like hotcakes and you want to know, you can't go to Amazon and ask them any information, but from the data that you were able to pull, you go, okay, this is the color that they're purchasing. I know if it's catering to men or women. How do I now use that information? So what I like to do is tell people, first, think about your niche. What is the niche that you're going after? And for this one, ill people, we have it in the title, is cats. And this is the cat niche. And then from here, we normally go into our bullet points, but I don't want to talk too much about that because I don't know how other people are doing their bullet points. So I'm just going to focus on just the title tonight. So if you look at your title, I'd be cutting up your title into each individual word. So I would have ew as one of the words, people, meow. Obviously, we already have cat, and then lovers. And then what I'd be doing with this information is pulling it. I put it on a spreadsheet. You can use a Word document. You can put this anywhere you want, but at least pulling this information off the page and putting it somewhere so you can refer back to it when you're doing research. So here's our keyword list. The niche that we're going after is cat. The additional keywords that we were able to pull from that listing is ew, meow, people, and lovers. This information is going to help us now when we do additional research.
Yeah, I don't know if we've talked about this, but we're going to do another over the shoulder when we're done talking about this and actually use these keywords so you guys can see, how we're going back and doubling down with these keywords. But we just want to show you how we're getting these keywords to start.
And then here's, again, in the same niche, it is cat. We look into the title. We're normally always trying to put the niche that we're going after in the title. So we have cat. The rest of the words that we're going to gather are casta, a play on NASA, universe, and then space. And again, we can look at our description here and see that we have kitty. We have a few other words. I don't know if you just want to go down there and circle it. Kitty is another way of saying cat, so it would also be in the niche. So all of these words that I'm going to show you how to use, you can use cat and you can use kitty or kitten, another way to define your niche. So we're going to pull these words off and again, add them and just make sure that we have all these words so we don't have to keep going back and forth, back and forth, back.
So that's Steven's super elongated keyword research. I told him keep it short, keep it tight. We're not trying to overwhelm you guys with keyword stuff right now.
Yeah, we're trying to keep this information simple and usable. We feel like getting all the information, showing you how to pull that information, then actually how to use it. And like Nathaniel said, we've done data very heavy this whole year, so now I'm trying to streamline that. I feel like most people know or understand this part of it, so just being able to keep this as tight as possible so you guys have actionable steps.
So now I'm going to talk about the art side of it. When you're looking at those shirts that have been selling well for you, how can you go back and identify what types of pieces of art you should be putting in what landing zones, and those landing zones are what you're finding with the 5-step test. It's important to know the landing zone that you're actually listing on. I've categorized these down into 3 different subjects or 3 different categories or types, as I say here. The first one being copycat, the second one being text-driven, and the third one being themed. And I'm going to show you an example of each of these and just quickly talk about how you can be competing here, the things that you should be looking at when you're going back and looking to actually make designs. For me, I say you have to switch what brain you're using. Thankfully, I have my brother, so he gets to look at all the data stuff. And then when I'm looking at the landing zone, it's completely different and it's just art focused. If we look at an example, the first example we're going to look at is copycat landing zone. And that would be something like this. So you can see up at the top, Pothead Coffee t-shirt. That's the actual saying that we typed in to get here, to get to this landing zone. And this is a copycat landing zone because all of these shirts, if you look at them, are basically the same thing. They're formatted basically the same way. They're using just a very simple mug on all the shirts. And so if you looked at this, you'd be like, man, if I'm not an artist, it's kind of hard to compete here because these customers, Amazon's figured out what a customer who's typing in this exact keyword saying, this is what they're looking for, and this is what they're actually buying. Again, Amazon's spending millions of dollars to put the right products in front of the right people. So we know if we're trying to list a shirt here, we don't want to make something that's going to be too varied from this design because we know this is working. And again, we know that's what these customers are actually buying. Anything to add to that?
Yeah, I would just say if you're not artistically gifted like myself, this is not necessarily a place that you would want to compete. If you're a really good artist and you see, I could change this up a little bit and be different, go for it. But it's hard unless you have an artistic eye to compete with anything that's very copycat landing zones like this.
The second example that we're going to look at, or the second landing zone type that we're going to look at, is text-driven. And a text-driven landing zone would look something like this. If you typed in this exact saying, that's what I do, I grow beards and I know things, you'll see a bunch of shirts that all say that exact saying on them. So unlike the copycat, where it's the exact same thing, this is just using the exact saying. All these pieces of artwork is actually varied slightly, and there's more room, like Stephen was just saying, if you're artistically gifted, you can compete on that copycat landing zone. But if you're not artistically gifted, but you have just a unique idea, maybe this is something easier for you to compete on because you know the exact saying that you have to use. Again, if you're typing this in, Amazon's saying, okay, people typing this in are buying this exact shirt, or a shirt that's saying this exact thing. So maybe I can change up the artwork and do something a little bit different here. Anything to add on to that?
Well, I thought you were going to talk about just the how they were looking. Like one has a beard.
Yeah, so if you were to look at this, sorry, I always forget because I'm looking at it from an artist's point of view, and then Steven's like, no, that's not how everybody's looking at it. So like this one has a more realistic looking beard. This one's got a beard and some sunglasses, like just changing up things. They might all look similar to you, but there are little different variations that are making all of these shirts stand out for one reason or another.
Yeah, it's, I guess, similar to the copycat landing zone, but because it's text driven, you do get to change up how the wordings are displayed and then be very creative, like that one person that has it in the glasses and in the beard to get yourself to stand out.
Looking at the last type of landing zone, the themed landing zone, this is like the most open landing zone as far as like what's going to work here. There's no exact saying that these are sticking to. There's no exact like piece of artwork that all of these are working off of. This is marathon running t-shirt. So if you were to type this in, you'll see something like this where a few of them have similar elements. You can see this 26.2 is used on 2 of these shirts, but it's not every shirt that has 26.2 on there and a little sprinting person. These are very different. I was gonna say very varied, but that doesn't make sense. They are just different. So some of these you can see have like a picture that's real big. Some of them are just words with a little image or just words completely. So there's a lot of room here, and this is a really good place for everyone to compete because Amazon hasn't nailed down exactly what this person is looking for. When they're typing in marathon running shirts, they're buying different things, so Amazon's showing them different variations of shirts to buy.
Yeah, so if you are like me and very data driven and not very artistically gifted, this is where I would spend most of my time, is trying to compete with things that look like this.
Now we're going to take that information that we just gave you about keywords and art and actually put it to use. If we go back and look at those shirts, like we said, we want to take our 2 most popular ones. That's where we're going to start. So we're going to take this space shirt and you people shirt. And we're going to use these and pull the data out of them, which we've already done, and look at some other places we could be listing shirts similar to this and maybe what types of designs we should be using in those other places.
Yeah, if you're struggling with the discovery research side of not knowing what to type in, you understand like the niching down, but you just don't know what keywords to start with, using products that are selling already are great places to do it. Because now what we're going to do is use the word cat and then the additional words that we've pulled, and then put t-shirt on the back of those, and then just start doing some research on it. So we can open up the Excel spreadsheet because we actually did pull. This is kind of how we have it set up when we do this. This is a simplified version of what we're doing, but essentially it's the same exact thing. We have the niche, we have the additional keywords. We're just trying to put those 2 together and put shirt at the back of it, and then do a search. So if we take cat and we take you, and I just want to say this. When we've been talking in the past, we've been very concerned about what auto-completes. Because we know customers have purchased this already, we're not so concerned with the autocomplete. It is good to see that there are autocompletes here, and we could actually click on EU People Cat Shirt, and we will probably do that next. But to just start, we want to see what the niche and that single word looks like. So we're going to hit search here.
And just remember to add shirt on the back of it when you're doing that.
And then as we can see, there's 116 results. There's very few competition. And I would say this looks very much like a copycat landing zone. A lot of these shirts look very similar. But we can still run Jungle Scout or Scope. We just want to make sure that shirts are selling here. And it would pass the last 2 steps that we have, which is at least 8 out of the top 10 have BSR and 2 are under 1 million. So what does that mean? That means that we would take this cat you shirt, we would add additional keywords onto the back of it when we're making the title, but we're actually going to pull this and add this to our Excel spreadsheet.
So I'm just going to copy this exact thing, go down to landing zones, which is just another tab we made in our spreadsheet so we keep things organized a little bit better, and enter that there.
And again, if you're like me, you might not want to spend all of your time trying to compete on this space, but if we go back to
I guess I should just talk about the type of
landing zone
that this is. I would say that this is very close to being a like complete copycat landing zone. All of these are using basically that same 4 cats in a line with ill people either above or below. Most of them are above. They figured out the formula. This is what customers who are typing this in, cat ill shirt, Amazon knows they're most likely, or they already are, buying these exact types of t-shirts. So if you were to try to compete here, you'd want to use something that falls in line with this. You can see this person got a little bit more creative and used different colored cats and made them a little bit more realistic than these just like silhouettes. But that is the type of design that you're going to want to be creating. Again, please don't copy exactly what you're seeing here, But you can see here's 3 different shirts that are all basically the same. They all say ill people at the top, and they have 4 cats in a row. This person has them kind of chopped off. This person is a full body, and this one's like a colored in, more realistic version of them. So there's a lot of other variations you could do, but again, if they don't start coming to your mind almost immediately, I would say it's probably not worth your time to compete somewhere like here, because there's so many other places to compete. Trying to nudge your way into something like this where it's already very defined what the customer is looking for might not be worth your time. That's my 2 cents for the art. So you can carry on with your keywords.
Well, no, we'll stop at some other variationed ones, but
Okay.
I think ew is so tight that it's going to be difficult to find non-copycat ones unless we kind of manipulate the information. But if you go back up to just the search bar, take the T off so it'll show the autocomplete again. I would still add the 3 ones that Amazon is suggesting to my spreadsheet. So you can't open these up, unfortunately, in different tabs, but you can go through and click through each one. So Eel People Cat shirt, I'm sure it's going to look very similar to what we just had. Sponsored ads, I mean, there are some different ones in the sponsored ads. You can see somebody is taking the saying and trying something different with it. Who knows if it's going to work or not, but at least they're running ads and trying to see, getting themselves up at the top.
Again, this is just a copycat landing zone. So
I would still add this if this is a place that you feel you can compete and be able to use that information. So go back up top. You're going to have to take the people out of there and have it auto-suggest the same thing again. Yep.
actually our title exactly.
Oh, giving away our secret. This is how we're titling our shirts. We normally add keywords onto the back of it, but really we're trying to laser focus where customers are going. And because there are no tools that really help us, the only thing we can kind of look at is what customers are typing by autofilling and then using that information to be able to target this landing zone. So we're using it in our title. We pull other keywords. I'm not going to be talking about a ton about that tonight, but this is the process that I would do. Once we have sales, I'm trying to find other landing zones to be able to put my shirt. We normally run Jungle Scout on all these, but just because they're the same shirts that are showing up, we're not. And for time purposes, we're just adding them to the list so we can keep it moving. So we can show you something other than just EU cat.
Yeah, we don't want you guys getting super hung up on, actually how we're making our listing, our titles, all that. We'll be teaching on that if you haven't already seen that, some of our teaching on that more. But this is just really good for going back, seeing the shirt that has already been selling for you, other places that you can list similar designs for it.
Yeah, I guess if this was my account and I didn't have Nathaniel and I just kept on seeing these copycat ones, what I would do next is maybe take cat off and just do the EU t-shirt and see if I can't at least find a landing zone that's a little more open. So here, there are the same 3 that we've been seeing over and over, but you can see EU People, there's a unicorn that's a sponsored ad, but at least somebody's trying something. This one that has a unicorn on it is selling pretty good. It says somebody's name. There's just the straight text. This would give me at least some opportunities to compete in here, especially if I've already made a cat shirt like that and I don't feel like I can make more variations of that. I can just type in that without cat to attempt to find more landing zones. So I would add this one to the list. And I would spend more time and just try to find a little bit more landing zones. But for time purposes, I'm going to move on to the next keyword. But we're going to be doing a similar thing that we just did. We're going to go back to our doubling down list. We're going to go to the keywords that we have. We're going to go to meow, copy that, type in cat. So again, it will autocomplete, but we don't want to see that yet. We want to see what, if a customer would just type in cat meow shirt, what is there? What other things are being offered to customers that are using these keywords? So here it's a lot of Christmas shirts because obviously we're in the Christmas season. If I'm going to be designing and it's this late into Christmas, I might pass this one by. I might still write down this landing zone, but then I would check it again in maybe a month or two because I don't necessarily want to be making Christmas shirts this late in the season. But I would copy that cat meow shirt. Oh, sorry, run Jungle Scout for me.
Okay.
We just want to make sure that there's sales. So yes, it passes. So now we're going to be adding this to our Excel spreadsheet.
Yeah, and I am looking at chat, so if you guys have questions, I know there's a lot of questions in here. Do you want to talk about the scope at all?
It does essentially the same thing. It is a little I don't know, because you have multiple screens, it's going to slow down the computer a lot.
Okay.
You can open it now, and I can just say it. Oh, it actually is working way faster. Normally when we have dual screen, maybe because we're not running the ODS or whatever that's called. We're just looking at the same top 10. You can actually scroll this up a little bit. If you have Jungle Scout or Scope, they work very similar for what we need them to do. We just want to pull the information off the page and be able to look at it quicker. So we're just looking at the top 10, and we just want to make sure that we're seeing rank or BSRs for all the top 10s, or 8 out of 10. So I would go back up, and then just how we're typing in before, I want to see what else autocompletes. So just take off the T, and then meow in bright. This is going to be kind of, I think, geared towards Christmas, but I would still copy this one. Again, we would run Jungle Scout for time purposes. We're not going to. I'm just going to be adding a few more to these lists. We'll actually, after this one, go to the other example. But again, I would take meow, cat, do the same kind of search, and see what else autocompletes. Very heavy on the Christmas.
Yeah, is that time of year.
Again, we'd run Jungle Scout, make sure it passes, make sure there's enough sales here to justify us spending our time attempting to put a shirt here. I don't know if you want to touch on what this landing zone looks like, or because it's Christmas, you want to just try another one.
So this does pass. I can talk about the art here a little bit. Usually, again, sponsored posts we're not taking too much time to look at because those are going to rotate so much. But if you had a shirt that was selling well here and it was a variation of this, there's a lot of room here still to list, certain, even if you're going to say like a cartoony cat shirt, like these are both cartoony cat shirts, just done in very different styles. So if you're someone who's good at creating, similar art, but in different styles, then this is definitely something you could do to compete here. Or if you just want to change it up completely and do something, like this, while I think the Christmas tree is working a little bit better than just a cat with a Christmas tree and some presents in the back, it is definitely something you could try. Or something like this, where you actually use like real pictures of cats and just put them on top of a Christmas tree. Or, there's a lot of different variations in here. If you just start to look, and again, this is really good information to be going back and looking at this when you're going to create the actual designs, because this is what Amazon is telling customers that, or is showing us what customers are actually buying. If people weren't buying these shirts, they wouldn't be showing up here unless they were keyworded very well. But this is what Amazon's telling us customers are buying, so we want to make something that looks similar, again, taking inspiration from it and putting something like that here as well. So, did you want to add this to our list as well?
Yes, sir. Even though it's heavy Christmas, but we'll add it to the list. Now let's go to the other example so we can show a bit more of the wider open. And instead of doing the play on NASA, because those are going to be kind of similar too, let's do
Cat Universe.
Yes. Right. Oh, you just highlighted the whole page.
Okay.
The next thing I'm doing is just looking at results. All of these that we've looked at have been well under 1,000. So this is extremely good for us information to be able to go, hey, there's not a lot of competition for a lot of these keywords that we're going after. So if you have a problem picking niches and niching down, this is a great place to save yourself a lot of time. Instead of just starting a cat and then trying to slowly niche down from there, and you go black cat, and black cat has still got a ton of results and it's difficult for you to niche down. Pulling keywords from stuff that's already working is a very quick way to find how to niche down. This one did actually autocomplete, so the competition that you're going against is only 190 other competitors. So I would definitely copy this and add it to our list, and then I'll have you talk about the landing zone.
Yeah, this one's different because we can't do all over prints like this, and we can't do anything that's like quite this detailed. But you can still take inspiration from designs like this. Why is the rest of the page not showing up?
It just disappeared when you went to scroll down.
All right. But I mean, you can.
Like you're only going to see these.
You can do something like this where you're just adding a picture right here on the front. You can see that this is working for this person. But I would do something more like this where you're kind of cropping it out, or let's look for something else. Maybe like this where there just is no picture and you just are able to take a photorealistic cat and throw it on top of a galaxy. or even something like this, where you put it, this is like my favorite way of using a photorealistic image, is just put it inside of a shape. That shape contains it very well, and so you don't have to do an all over print like this. You can just do it inside of a little shape. I would use a circle or something to like look like the moon or something like that. But that would be my way of competing here. Because we can't do these all over prints and put a million cats on here with galaxies, I would just do it inside of, you know, a smaller window. Something like this, I think, just looks way cleaner than even something like this. So just knowing how to compete here, even though like we're limited by the actual printers that we're using, it doesn't mean that you have to limit your creativity when trying to compete on something like this.
Yeah, I think I just want to plug Nathaniel's art class. If you're enjoying Nathaniel speaking right now, he did an art class where he broke a lot of this down and actually showed how to use a free tool and accomplish a lot of these looks. I don't know about the photorealistic one. That might be a little difficult to do in that free program.
Possible.
But if you are interested, we do have that art class. I just want to bring that up and let people know that that is available.
Yeah, something like this too is really cute. I guess thank you for the play. But something like this is really cute too, where it's just like, you know, they took the cat face and they made the cat face like the galaxy. So if you are creative, you can, you know, think inside the box for this one. But we'll add that as well to our list. And you can see like pretty quickly, I mean, that wasn't a ton of time that we're spending on that. I don't know, maybe 10, 15 minutes, because we're talking about each one of these as we're going through. But you can build up a list fairly quickly of keywords that you can go back and retarget and put shirts here as well. And, you know, if your art meets, if you're looking at this landing zone, you're like, you know what, my art would also work here. And then you can feel free to reuse that same piece of artwork and just put it with updated keywords and make a completely new listing. I just like looking at the landing zone because, you know, again, this is what Amazon is telling us customers are buying. So if I'm putting a piece of artwork here, I mean, maybe this isn't the greatest example because these designs are all over the place. But if I'm putting a t-shirt here that says, you know, whatever this is, universe, and it's, you know, the cat Christmas tree, maybe that's not going to work out so well. So I'll just make another piece of artwork that works for this landing zone and using these keywords that we found that actually we've made sales with. That is like the biggest part of this, is like these keywords have already been vetted because we've actually made sales. So we know everything that we've done to make that sale is working. So we just want to do that more.
I guess that's a better way to look at the keywords. When you're doing discovery research, you're just guessing at a lot of it. And once you have a sale, like Nathaniel said, then it's those keywords are vetted for you. And I think it's well worth your time, because this is kind of what we built our business off of, going back, taking those vetted keywords and trying to get the most out of them.
Definitely.
I think we've shown this enough. I think everybody understands. I do want to kind of transition over and talk about the bootcamp that we have.
One question that Fernando has. He just was asking what the difference you think Jungle Scout versus Unicorn Smasher.
Unicorn Smasher sometimes isn't able to pull the information correctly. If you're having luck by running Unicorn Smasher and you're seeing that it is actually pulling the top 10 and it's pulling it in the correct order, then I would say go for it. It wasn't the case for us. Unicorn Smasher is free as far as I can remember. But the information that it was pulling was just not accurate. And it was slow for us. So if it's working for you, I don't think there's any problem with it. But we have noticed that Jungle Scout and Scope is consistent, and they always pull the data. Well, I don't want to say always. Most of the time,
one
pull the
of
data
them
correctly.
Hopefully works.
Yeah.
That's why we use both.
I'm not suggesting buying both. I would suggest either buying Jungle Scout or Scope. Scope, I believe, has switched to a monthly payment schedule, and Jungle Scout, I believe, is a one-time, and you can buy either the Pro or the Lite. Either one will work. And you can really just use DS Quick View. DS Quick View is free. It just shows the information on page. You're going to have to scroll down each time and count the top 10 and see if they have BSRs or not. For me, Jungle Scout is a tool that I'm already using, so I just use it, and it speeds everything up.
I should have known asking a question like that. I was going to put you on it right.
10 minutes later.
We have way more information that we are loving sharing with you guys. We're doing it inside of, you know, the pre-flight course. There's a lot of other places that we're sharing information. But when we try to laser focus in on one topic, you can see like a lot of other tips and tricks come out of this. That's why we like doing things like over the shoulder and doing stuff live.
And getting a lot of questions.
Yeah, and getting questions definitely helps us. Like, we have so much information that we want to share with you guys, but just remembering to think about tonight for the doubling down. Like, I hope we got our point across to you guys tonight. How important it is to be able to look at your sales data. If you can do that by just looking at your CSV, there's absolutely no problem with that. It's not for me. That's why I have merch reports. And being able to look at that data, pull, keywords and the inspiration from the art there, and going out to other landing zones, seeing where else you can put similar shirts using, that vetted data that actually has made sales for you.